Well, it's so nice to meet you. I was looking at your profile again earlier and I was like, oh, yeah, I remember being really excited about this. So, you are a somatic psychotherapist, or at least you're licensed in that. I'm sure you do lots of stuff. And I know that you are an author. I am so excited about this for a couple of reasons. For one, I've actually started integrating somatic practices into my life, a lot of different ones over the last year, specifically recently, but I really want to dig into why they work. But I wanted to know first how you got into this work.
Yeah. I didn't take the normal route, I will tell you that.
I
I,
love that.
I was a CPA in New York, and
No, I love
yeah, I
this.
was. I was, and what was happening, I've been dancing since I was 4 years old, so I
Yeah,
would say that's the one thing my parents really got right, or my mom, in terms of handling my emotions. Um And dance was always the place for me where I was happy. If, something was off, something was going astray in my life, even though I didn't recognize it, dance was the place that I could restore, that I could come back to balance. And in my career as an accountant, and I love numbers, I didn't hate my career, but the dance class I wanted to be taking was in the middle of the day. And I'm sitting at my desk going, I don't want to be here. I want to be dancing. I don't want to be here. I want to be dancing. It's my
that's
mantra.
amazing.
So I eventually quit that job, took another one that lasted 2 weeks. I still didn't wanna be there, and then I started managing the dance studio for $50 a week in New York City, and all the dance classes I could take, obviously not sustainable. But that, I think that was probably the first step where it was like, "What do I want? What makes me happy? What lights me
Mhm,
up?" Where is
mhm.
my work? And even though I didn't know where the path was gonna take me, all I knew was now I'm dancing in the middle of the day and I'm trying to figure out how to make money on the side. Eventually, I actually moved to Santa Fe. I was drawn here. I came on vacation and, friends from New York told me, "Don't go, you won't come back." I was like, "What are you talking about? I'm going on vacation." But they were right. I didn't know.
They
I
were
started doing
right.
volunteer work in Santa Fe, and then I found some authentic movement classes, which is the practice of finding what wants to move from within, rather than being
Mm.
told this is how you're gonna move. And that just it just spoke to me, and the more I did that, it was like, "Of course, this is my work through movement." And I went to Naropa, where I got my master's in dance movement therapy, really thinking that I would be doing large movement groups and it'd be good to have the psychotherapy background, having no real understanding that I was getting trained as a psychotherapist.
Yeah, yeah.
It kind of just been like, oh, so this is what we're doing.
You're like, "Well, you gotta have the credentials, so Imma get them," but you didn't know really what credentials you were
I
getting.
really didn't. And that's what happened. And I feel incredibly blessed and guided in the direction my life has taken.
Man, what a beautiful story because you could have very easily ignored the call that you
Yes.
were feeling to be lit up, to do
Yes.
things that really matter to you,
Yes.
and at that point, you weren't even thinking professionally, you were just thinking,
Oh,
"This is not what's fun for me."
right.
And I just love that because, I mean, honestly, that's how this show started too, was like, "I wanna talk, man. I'm tired of, like, not talking." And so, yeah, I think that's such a good example. I also obviously am so in love with the idea that, you know, you have a spiritual practice as well. And I do think that that means so many different things for different people, but I can tell that you and I are very similar in the way that we believe. But okay, so what a beautiful story. I'm so excited because okay, so what can you tell me about this idea of authentic movement? I have not tapped into this. Like, well, I say that, but now I'm like, oh, there are a couple of things I do just because that's what feels natural, but not
Right.
dance stuff, just touch and some body movements. So I'd
Yeah.
really like to get to expand on that.
Yeah, so authentic movement is one form of conscious dance. It's not one that I practice right now. The form that I practice on a regular basis now is five rhythms developed by Gabrielle Roth. There's also soul motion, which I adore, and a lot of other open floor, a lot of other conscious movement practices. And that practice is the practice of, there's somebody teaching, there's somebody guiding, but it's a gentle guidance. It's, this is what we're exploring today,
Okay.
but it's specifically five rhythms is a practice of first we see what's happening internally. So, what's present for me? What's present for me in the body? What's present for me in thinking? What's present for me in emotions? So, that's the first piece. Just check in. And I don't need to say what all the rhythms are. It's a beautiful practice, but that learning how to listen to your body is so critically important for effective therapy. And this is, where it branches is and, obviously for movement, for me to find, the freedom of my movement, it has to start with where I am. And this is
Uh-huh.
also a basic premise of psychotherapy is meet the client where they're at. Same for
Absolutely.
us, meet myself where I'm at. So if I
Mm,
show up with an agenda, if I show up, oh, I just want to have fun, that is not meeting myself where I'm at. If I
yeah.
show up and go, oh my God, the events of the world are breaking my heart, and I feel into it, which is you can see it's on the surface for me. That's what's
Right.
here for me now. That's
Mhm.
what I wanna move with. So I let
Yeah.
myself feel, okay, my heart is breaking. What does that feel like in the body? As I let myself get in touch, I can feel some heaviness. I can feel some tears. I could feel some wanting to collapse. And so then if I'm going to follow that, I'm going to let myself move with that. I'm going to let myself collapse into it until it starts to shift into something different. And movement will always do that. When it's not being governed by thinking, movement finds its own sequence, much like a wave on the ocean.
Yeah.
And waves on the ocean are often spoken about as um, or I often use them as an analogy for our feelings, that our feelings want to move. And when we let them, they will complete. When we try and stop them, they won't.
Yeah.
But same with movement. And Chloe, my teacher here in Santa Fe, said something recently that was like, well, of course, but I'd never given it any thought. Waves themselves don't actually move. It's water being pushed by energy. And same as
Yes.
the body, can I let myself be moved by the energy? So again, it's interesting because years ago I came for myself, a mantra came, um, go with the flow of energy. Even when the flow of energy is flat on my back, but not
Yeah.
resisting that. And same with movement, same with emotion, which again, emotion, energy in movement or energy in motion. So
Wow. Well, I'll be really honest. I caught myself when you first said when you said, "And I don't practice that right now," I was like, "Oh, I just realized I was in trouble with myself for a second, as if I wasn't doing something correctly because I'm not doing quote unquote authentic movement practices."
mm,
So I want to say that out loud
yeah,
because I feel like
yeah,
that's so important. And again, then you said meeting yourself where you are and I was like ding ding ding. Yes. Okay, so I have
yes.
a question then
Mhm.
because so much of what I know has come organically and spiritually. And then I learned the science behind it later. Like some guest will come on and I'll be like, "Oh, that's why that works so well. Great. Okay,
Right.
great."
Yeah.
Um because I guess I am decent at just allowing because that's been a
Yeah.
real big force in my life is learning that resistance keeps us stuck. But I do wonder in those times where the only thing I have to give myself is the practice of noticing the sensations and emotions in my body and then sending love and peace from, like, or energetically to those spots. Sometimes that's the only movement I have in me. But is that movement like how what do you think about that?
So I think you're working even harder than you need to, that you don't actually have to send anything anywhere. When you get present to sensation without resistance, when you simply open to it, what needs to happen is happening.
Okay.
With all sensation, and obviously there are pleasurable sensations that we don't resist, but many sensations in the body, or many of the sensations we pay attention to, are the ones that are not pleasurable. When
Mhm.
when there is, a contraction, my heart is tight, or even, I remember I, I had this, it was the strangest little thing. I had this little ping in my finger one morning. I was like, that's weird, but let it go because it's no big deal. And then the next morning I have the same ping in my finger. And and this is what we do. As soon as something starts to happen more than once, we start to
Uh-huh.
label it a problem. My husband is an energy medicine practitioner. So day 2, I couldn't believe it was day 2. I go running to my husband, "Something's wrong with my finger."
I love it. Sounds
But
like me. Mhm.
as we do that, when there's something we don't like, we contract against it. And that process, so like, an irritant on the finger, we clasp down on it, and now we've literally held it right where it is. And when we open to it, we give it room to move.
Oh, yes. Okay, yes. I'm like
So
feeling
just
energetically what you're
that
talking
is
about.
enough, right?
Yeah.
So your mind doesn't have to get involved. You don't have to say, I have to send this
Yeah.
love. If love arises, beautiful. But you don't
Yes.
have to work at it. Just open.
Yeah.
Soften and open is what I say probably more than I say anything. Soften and open to both
I
myself and
love
my clients.
that. What a phenomenal example you've just given too, because I'm gonna remember that forever. I love tangible examples like that. But you're right. You're keeping it stuck when
Yes.
you contract and brace, which has been my MO my whole life. Like it's something I have to constantly notice. Like, oh,
Right.
you're bracing again, you're
Right.
contracted again. What's going on? Like why what is there something actually in your environment that you need to take care of, or do you need rest? Do you need food? Oftentimes I need to eat. But, yeah, I love soften and open because yeah, I can do that. But I needed to yeah, I'm so glad I asked the question now because yeah, resistance keeps us stuck, and that's another
Yeah.
way that resistance happens. And yeah, I can absolutely see where I have overworked the process sometimes. So, okay, what well, now I don't remember what I was gonna ask. Hmm,
Hmm.
I love when that happens.
Yeah.
I don't know. Okay, well,
Yeah.
I just think too, though, that we as humans really do overcomplicate every
Yes.
little thing.
Yes.
What are other ways that you've noticed maybe in you or people that you work with, maybe other forms of resistance that you're noticing in people? Like, how else can that show up? Because sometimes it takes actual examples for me to go, "Oh," like me noticing the perfectionism jumping right out like, "Oh, you didn't even do that right," like immediately, and it's sneaky, and I'm constantly seeing how I'm doing that. So I would love other examples of resistance if you have them. Maybe it's a weird question, I don't know.
Yeah. Well, actually, I'm thinking about it as you're asking, and I think resistance shows up in the body. It's pretty obvious. There's almost always a contraction, some sort of tightening. But apathy can be
Oh,
resistance.
oh,
Depression, lack of motivation. These are all, I feel stuck. I don't know what to do. Confusion. A
yes.
lot of things can be covering I don't want to.
Oh,
And,
you're right.
there's really nothing wrong with I don't want to,
Yeah.
but until we own it, it doesn't move. So we come up with all these different strategies. I'm too busy. I'm
Yes.
too this. I'm too that. I don't know what's happening. All of those, become ways. I mean, even it's interesting because the state of the world right now, I don't know how you're doing, but I if I'm paying too much attention,
Mhm.
it's not good. I'm not functioning
It
well.
it's not good.
So
Yeah.
so there are days that I have to resist that. Resist the urge to get on Facebook. I don't
Mhm.
watch the news, haven't watched the news in a very long time, but to
But
resist the
Facebook is a
urge to pay
cesspool.
attention. So
Yes.
sometimes resistance is self-care. So
Yeah.
just even recognizing, I'm intentionally not going there. But more often, the easiest way to locate resistance is to notice, is my body tense?
Yeah. Oh,
Am I
man.
tired,
Okay, so
tired,
much has come up for
tiredness?
me because the "I don't want to" is so real in me
Mhm.
over the last year,
Uh,
worse over the last probably 6 months, and I know that it's external factors, like, it's not something wrong with me, but you're right, I
right.
try to attack it with strategies, and sometimes they work and sometimes they don't,
Yeah.
and so I can definitely see where I'm making it harder for myself, but can
Yeah.
we unpack a little bit that I don't want to and how to deal with it in the way that you're
Yes.
talking about? Because
Yes.
I
Well, this
really need
so
that.
so let me see
Your
if I can
book,
actually.
yeah.
Oh, look at this. Resistance, lack of motion, and feeling stuck. That's the chapter we want, isn't it?
Yes.
So, though I think the practice I'm looking for is actually in the anger practice. So the book is full of ways, but my favorite way to move with I don't want to is to let yourself be 4 years old again and have a fit. I don't want to. And
Yeah.
stay with it until it starts to release. And it's like, we were so smart when we were little. And especially, if we were well parented. And by that, I mean, if our parents allowed us to have our feelings,
Yep, it
which
was safe.
most didn't.
No.
um, but if when you're 3 years old and you're allowed to have your feelings, you're going to have a fit. I don't want to. And 2 minutes later, you're going to be laughing because the feeling
Yeah.
will have moved. But we don't think that's allowed. We don't think we're allowed to quit. We don't think we're allowed to be angry. We don't think we're allowed to do this. It's like there's so many things that our conscious mind and society has said you can't do that. And, back to movement, the range of movement that we can do, sit up straight, cross your legs, sit still, don't put your arms up in the air, don't shake your head. What's wrong with you? And it's like,
Mhm.
we have unlimited movements available to us, but we've restricted them to like this much of what our
Yep.
range is. So letting yourself feel what you do without taking it out on somebody else, but with the
Mhm.
intention of letting it move so that you can come back to center, so you can come back to yourself. And this is where movement becomes a spiritual practice. Letting
Mhm.
go becomes a spiritual practice because the more I can let go of, the more I can move out of the way. All
Yeah.
that which is not me, the more that is authentically that which I am has room.
Yeah. But I can also see how these practices do require some self-trust
Oh, yeah.
because I'm noticing as you say that, my little self-doubt coming in being like, "But will I return to center? Will I know how to move forward?"
Yeah.
And I
So
know
I'm really glad
logically
you
that
said
I am enough, but I'm
yeah,
noticing that the doubt comes
yeah,
in.
and I'm so glad that you're naming it because sometimes we have to take baby steps in.
Yeah.
So I've been dancing all my life. I mean, this is my language. This is probably my primary language, and
Yeah.
I trust movement more than I trust anything,
Mhm.
But for those that are new to it, then it looks like, well, let me just see. Oh, I don't want to. Let's just see what happens if I just go like this. Oh, I just don't want to. Oh, that feels a little better. And you will notice that. So
Yeah.
start small. And in fact, when we go too big and too far away from what's authentic, then we do risk getting lost in it. So
Yes.
start small. There's nothing wrong with that. And movement, it's like I want to come back to you speaking to what does movement look like. So, my husband's doing has been doing Vipassana meditation probably for 60 years now. And Vipassana meditation is the practice of following sensation and
Mm.
in the body without moving while sitting still. So what his practice is kind of noticing, oh, oh, there's something happening in the back of my neck. And giving it energy, giving it attention lets it move without physically moving the body. So movement can look like this. There can be a ton of movement happening while we're sitting still, and it can look the way it usually looks or more often looks for me, where it gets really pretty big.
Yeah.
But there's, again, a whole continuum.
I love that. Yeah, you know what's crazy is automatically, when you said neck, I, like, tuned into my neck, you know? And, all I because it's always tense and for some reason or another, you know? But I just, like, for a second noticed it, and I felt it move up. That was wild. I wasn't
Yeah.
saying anything to it or anything, I just paid attention to
You
it for
just
a
paid
second,
attention. You
and it
just
went
paid
right
attention.
up.
Yes. And the other thing I will say to you, and I say this to anybody who's listening, we use the words, my neck always hurts. Your neck doesn't always hurt. Even if it's hurting 23 hours of the day, there are moments when you're not aware of it. And
Yeah.
starting to pay attention to the moments when it's not hurting is also a good idea.
Ooh, yeah, you're right.
Yeah, yeah.
I like that.
But that said, if you wanted to explore it, I would just start by noticing, whoa, my neck just doesn't feel good. So, what words would you describe to speak of the sensations in your neck?
Probably just tight.
Okay. So if you notice the tightness, does it feel sharp? Does it feel tight? Is it broad? Is it in one specific place? Where do you notice? What do you notice when you pay attention?
I wouldn't say sharp usually. There is sometimes it's sharp. Broad. It's a because it's a large part of my neck down into my shoulders.
Okay. And does it feel like lack of mobility? I can't move? Or what words again would you use?
Yes, it feels like I can't like not a lot of range of motion in my neck or shoulders.
Okay. So then I would even go into that like, oh, it's not a lot of range of motion. I feel like I can't move. And then as you stay with that, you might start having some memories from childhood. You're not allowed to move. You're not allowed to do this. And you start to notice as like, oh, this feels like something that happened when I was 10. And because
Mm,
that's what happens, emotions get stuck in the body.
yeah.
So paying attention to it can sometimes bring up those old feelings. And that's good if you're in a place where you can be with them and start to let
Yeah.
them.
Yeah. Well, and what's crazy is what came up for me when you said that was more just how many traumatic events happened that I was like, ah, you know, and you tense up and you brace and you contract.
Right. Right. So if you wanted to play with that, I wouldn't do it right now when you're done talking to me,
Yeah, yeah.
is let yourself tense up and, oh, this is the contraction that feels comfortable. This is what I'm used to. What would happen if I soften just a little bit? And it's like, oh, that kind of feels good. Soften a little more. Up, scary. Go back up. Okay, this feels
Mm,
okay. And you just kind of play with where you can until it feels okay to start gradually loosening a little bit more. You start paying attention to when you do this in conversation in your life, and you go, oh, there I go. Let's just see if I can't
yeah.
just soften just a little bit, not all the way, just a little bit. So you find where you feel comfortable.
Yeah. I really like that, and I loved the point you made earlier about not starting too big because it
Yeah,
will feel inauthentic to you,
yeah,
and I've certainly done things like that, but I've also seen other people, and I think it's just the same as, like, yes, affirmations are great if you believe what you are saying.
exactly,
Otherwise, you're
exactly.
just affirming a lie, and so,
Right.
like, I really teach people about invocations and decrees, but,
Yeah,
like, I am guilty of this where I'm like, "Oh, somebody outside of me has said this is the way, the truth, and the light, so I'm gonna do it even though it
yeah,
doesn't feel like my way, my truth, or my light," and then I'm wondering why I'm not seeing the results they're seeing.
yeah, yeah, and, it's interesting affirmations like what you just said, if you actually believe it, if you're using it
Mhm,
as a reminder, "I'm capable and I'm competent," and I know that. Sometimes I forget. But when you tell yourself things that you don't actually believe in the form of an affirmation, then you become another person who's lying to you.
mhm.
So don't do
Absolutely,
that.
and I think moving in a way that doesn't feel good
Right,
for you is a
right,
lie as well.
right, right.
Wow. Man, I love that. Okay, so here's another question. I have 1 or 2 clients that are perpetual survival mode because they have so much going on in their lives. Like, there's no real way to address emotional distress from before when we're dealing with real life. Like, so much of the session truly is just me holding the space for them to say all the things. And then I really at the end I'm like, "Listen, I know. And I know that what I'm about to offer you for something for you to practice this week is going to seem really insignificant, but we are working on just little bits of somatic practices and leaning really far into delusion. If that's the only like that cuz that's saying it that way to them is a way they can receive what I'm trying to give them, like
Right.
be delusional. But I'm wondering if you had 1 or 2 practices that if you were working with someone like that, what your go-tos would be, if you
Yeah.
don't mind sharing that.
Yeah, I absolutely don't mind sharing. In my first book, Stress Free in 30 Seconds, is actually full of practices that can be done in 30 seconds for just this
Oh, I
reason,
love that.
because stressed people don't find time to de-stress.
Right,
The
right.
people that need it most. So having things that they can do in a very little bit of, small amount of time can make a huge difference. And so let me just start with breath. I mean, and I'm sure you probably, it's like if once every 30 minutes, ideally, once an hour, if you really can't do every 30 minutes, but once every 30 minutes or 60 minutes, if you stop for 30 seconds and just focused on the inhale, the exhale, and the pause. And then again, the inhale, the exhale, and the pause between the next inhale. You do that twice, it's going to take 30 seconds.
I
And the
love it.
reason that practice is so good, the inhale is the taking in of life. And often overwhelmed people are taking in too much. The
Mhm.
exhale, we get kind of like, and we're not taking in. And then we completely forget about the pause. So
Yeah.
just regulating the breath for 30 seconds is going to reset the system. So that would be one practice, one go-to practice. Another go-to practice, and this is, where the book comes from, Shake Yourself Free. There are 81 practices in there, and they promise only a couple of them are shaking, but shaking shifts the system. So
Yeah.
again, setting an alarm for every, 30 minutes, every 60 minutes, and just getting up and doing this. Okay, I shook off some stuff. I don't know what I shook off. I don't care what I shook off. I shook off some stuff. And so going back to what we were talking about, authentic, when you can really meet what's here and what I'm shaking off, it becomes even more powerful. But all movement is medicine. All movement is good movement.
I
So
love it.
even just shaking and you don't know what you're shaking off, again, is going to shift the system. So anything, even, if you have a cup of coffee on the desk, if you have flowers on the desk, stopping to smell the flowers literally is again a practice that'll bring you back into this moment. And where, we get so crazy with our lives. And I will tell you, I don't know about your clients, but sometimes the busy life is intentional so that we
Mhm.
don't feel.
Mhm.
So there's another way we resist. I'll just keep my schedule so full that I won't have time to see what's happening with me.
Yeah.
So helping your clients find 30 seconds, if they did it 10 times a day, that would be 3 minutes. Is that right? Am I calculating my,
Yeah.
no, it'd be 5 minutes.
Well,
30
I'm like,
seconds, 30
math.
seconds 10 times a day would be 5 minutes. 5 minutes a
Don't
day.
ask me.
And I would say that, it's like, do you deserve 5 minutes a day
Yeah.
in 30-second increments?
I love that. Well, and it reminded me too. So I've heard again different stuff, and I just kind of take the part that means the most to me, and then I'm like, there's some science behind this. I don't remember what it is. So one day, my son Jake, we just lost him recently,
Mm.
and but a few months ago, he had needed to replace the hood on his car, and we went to the little pull apart place to get a hood for his car. And he of course, he waited till my husband was out of town to do this, so it was just up to me, and it was a whole spiritual practice for me to do this because I was like, "You're enough, you can help," like, all this stuff.
I know
So
everything
we
can
get
become
there,
spiritual
and
practice.
it was because I was not happy that we were doing this, and so, we get the lots of drama, lots of whatever, we finally get the hood strapped to the top of my car, and I am freaking out because, well, first of all, I know he doesn't really know what he's doing, but he does have it strapped, and he's holding the straps inside the car. But I'm driving. I'm so scared to pull out. I'm crying. My daughter's in the car, and I'm like, "Ah," and he said, "Mom, the hood is either gonna fall off or it's not, so," and I was like, "Ugh, sage advice, Jake, that's beautiful, thank you." But then, like, I also know I have more control than I'm giving myself right now, so I was like, "Okay, you know what, though? He's right. Whether I'm crying and bracing like I'm about to hit something or not, this hood will do what it's gonna do."
Yes.
So I stopped and I just shook my hands for like 10 seconds to try to just get all of that crazy
Yes.
out, and it worked. So my
Yes.
kids were terrified. They were like, "What the hell are you doing?" But I told them because I'm always trying to model. Everything I'm doing, I'm like
Yes,
modeling
good.
out
That's
loud.
exactly what you're
But I was
saying. You're
like, "No,
following.
I feel so much better. Okay." I mean, I still drove 20 miles an hour
Uh-huh.
and I still was safe, but like I wasn't sitting there assuming the worst. I felt steady and stable. So
Yeah,
I love every time I think about that memory because it really did work. But
yeah,
I know there's science behind it. I just don't know what?
yeah, yeah. Well, I'll tell you a little bit of the science. We hold emotions in the body. This Candace Pert wrote the beautiful book, Molecules of Emotion. She was really the first one to start talking about this, that we store, especially, when we're children and we're not allowed to express, we
Mhm.
store emotions in the body. And I like to think of it as safekeeping. At some point, I'm going to let this come up and out. Those
Mm.
feelings that get held in the body, they run our lives, whether we're aware of it or not. So letting them have some movement puts you back in charge. And,
Mm.
I'm so glad that you're modeling this. I mean, I absolutely believe that we would change the world if we would teach our children how to feel their feelings. I think
Mhm.
all the shit that's going down in the world is a result of suppressed emotions. And
100%.
this morning, it's funny, I had so much bizarre, I had compassion for the ice people that are, I mean, because they're not feeling their feelings, but it doesn't
Right.
mean that their feelings don't exist. And
Right.
what kind of craziness must they be experiencing, you know?
Yeah, that they're so unaware of because they're doing some crazy shit. So,
Right. And the
and
and the
and
body
and
won't
their fight
tolerate
or
it.
flight is activated just like ours.
Yes.
So you got all the stuff they're doing, all the fear that they are living in, and yet they're expressing and or even acknowledging none of it,
Right.
which makes it more scary for me as a
Yes.
non-ice person. Like, oh
Yes.
dang, that's a recipe
Yes.
for disaster right there.
Yes.
But I get what you're saying, and this is the only way that we can change the world is
Right. This
by
is and
understanding
it's like
that.
I keep coming back to this for myself and my clients, it's like, to be honest with you, my book just released this week, and it should be in
Oh, happy release
right?
week.
So celebration, feel good, and my
Yes.
and my heart is so heavy
You're
because of the
having a
state of the
hard
world,
time.
and
Yes.
but I keep reminding myself, I keep reminding my clients that this work is more important than ever because of these heavy hearts.
Exactly.
How do we
Exactly.
keep bringing in the light? How do we keep clearing the way? And
Yes. And my answer to that is we get through that moment of heavy, in the next moment we remember what we're doing here and then we share with others. I
right,
just hurt so bad 5 minutes ago. I
yes,
felt compassion for an ICE agent this morning. Like we just stay very real and true to us. And that's exactly what I'm trying to do on this show.
yeah,
Every day is to show up exactly how I am and be very open and honest about my everyday struggles because I used to think my purpose here was get to the other side of something and share how I did it. Well,
yeah.
all that wasn't working for me anyway.
No,
There was no
no,
other side of any of
yeah,
it because I was living in the middle of it without realizing it.
right,
So I've been unraveling and remembering who I am and just showing people what that looks like every day. And on the days where I mean, to be honest, it's much easier to ignore everything now that I've lost my son because I'm actively grieving. So, like, I can't even give the world my attention. But when I feel a little shitty about that, I'm like, hey, but the only way this world changes is light. The more we show people how to experience feelings, so that they're not projecting all of their stuff onto other people and creating more hate and strife in this world. The more we love ourselves, the more that love radiates and it helps everyone. So
yeah,
what I'm doing to take care of myself during grieving and sharing that process is not for nothing. It
yeah,
all matters and it does help the collective as well. So that's what I
absolutely,
keep remembering.
absolutely, and I'll tell you, I I can't obviously, I haven't been through what you've been through. I lost my nephew 2 years ago, which was pretty devastating, but obviously completely
Yeah,
devastating for my brother and his wife, but as we go through heartbreak, we can do that without falling apart, and
exactly.
and and it's a fine line. So where am I not falling apart? Where am I going into denial and pretending, I
Mhm.
know I was back in session a couple of days before, well, many days before I was ready, and there would be moments during the session when, the grief came up. And
Mhm.
what I was able to do was to just soften into it so that I could let the grief be there. It wasn't push it away. It was
Right.
let be here as I'm with another, you know?
Yes.
And
Yes.
but I will say, Jake, yes? Is your son's name?
Yeah. Yeah.
I love what he said to you. It'll happen or it won't, mom.
Yep.
Sounds like a very wise being. One of the practices, so I teach Sedona method also, which is a way of letting go, and Hale
Mhm.
Dwoskin runs that. And one of my favorite way of releasing is to say, "This is what's gonna happen unless it doesn't." And just adding that possibility that I don't know what's
Yeah.
gonna happen changes everything.
Yes.
Yeah.
I just told my client that yesterday, and I told her the story about the hood,
Sorry.
and I said, "Listen, does all of the hyper vigilant protective things that you're doing actually give you any control over whether or not this thing you're afraid of happens?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
So the way that you are, I said, sometimes I know that it's easy to get in this place where it's like, oh, well, in a bad way, like in a victim place. But
Yes.
what if you got there in a more empowered place, like, oh, well, it's either gonna happen or it's not, but that
Yeah.
I don't get any control.
Right.
And it did help her. By
Of
the end of
course.
that
Yes.
conversation, she was in a place to face another day. And sometimes that's all you need is
Yes.
a way. Right now, I'm getting through my days. I'm not looking towards the future. I'm not doing any of that. What do I need today to, and at
Yeah.
first, I mean, we're only a month in, but at first it was minute to minute because my brain was doing the things that brains do. But I do feel incredibly grateful to myself for having a general understanding of these things because I'm now moving from minute to minute to day to day. Like we had an hour to hour period too, but I'm day to day now. And that's progress. And I feel great about that. And I think people think when I talk about this that I mean, I'm who I was before or that, anything looks the same as it did
Yeah.
before. But what I'm saying is I'm not suffering and that I believe suffering is a choice and I'm choosing to do as many things as I need to do to allow what I'm feeling. There are plenty of times in the evening where I am like crying so hard it hurts. But what I'm not doing is assigning meaning or morality to that, and I'm not getting stuck in a thought spiral that makes it
Beautiful.
worse or
Beautiful.
compounds the grief.
Beautiful. And
That's
that's
all you
called
can do,
letting it
right?
move, right? Because the
Yes.
mind gets in, it's like, "Oh, why is this happening? Blah, blah, blah." And it's like,
Mhm.
"No, we don't need that. Just let it happen." And
And it
what
is truly
happens.
my body that causes the
Yes.
crying.
It's
Like,
great.
I'll feel it
Great.
come and I just let it, and
Yeah.
then as I start to cry, it determines how hard the cries get. A lot of times it is a small cry, but
Right.
those
Well, the
times that it's
crying
hateful,
doesn't
whoo,
when you go all the way into it, it doesn't last long.
it doesn't.
It's when, it's like we can cry out of self-pity that can go on for days and hours and hours, but
That's when your thoughts are governing
right,
all of it.
when we
Mhm.
move into the sensation, I mean, I let myself, have a good cry when I need to, and I can know it's a minute, 2 minutes, it just doesn't last, you
Yeah,
know?
if you're not feeding it with crazy thoughts,
Right.
it
Yeah,
doesn't want it's not sustainable no matter
yeah,
what it is. Like, it wants to move, that's the whole idea of it. It
yeah,
wants to move,
and,
and at least that's
yeah,
the way I feel it framed within me, you know?
yeah.
But I guess I hadn't even really given it much thought that it really is self-governed. Like, whenever I'm allowing it to just I'm
Yeah,
like, "Oh, I feel it, it's coming," and then I'm like, "Okay, allow it," and then I start crying. I mean, sometimes it's the light little cry, and then sometimes it is like your entire body is involved in the
yes,
process. But yeah, I'm just allowing it
yes,
and just loving myself through that because it's just
beautiful.
natural. But also yesterday I didn't cry at all and it made me nervous. I was like, "Oh, what,
That's the
did
move,
I
that's the
deny? Did I what did I do today?"
no, no, and, so there's 2 things I wanna say, I wanna make sure. One is we'll come back to control, but around grief, grief moves in waves, so there's sadness, there's anger, there's confusion, there's numbness, and your job with grief is to move with the waves. But the other thing you should, if you don't already know, when grief is moving, old stuff also moves with it.
Yeah.
So obviously, the grief of your son is very front and center, but who knows what you're letting go of from childhood while
Yeah.
you're letting that happen. So
Mhm.
good job. But
Thank
the other thing I
you.
want to come back to is control, and I think you'll like this and you can use it with your clients. And this is Sedona method, to the extent that you want to control anything, you give it the ability to control you.
Oh, yes.
Yes. So I want to control the weather. I feel controlled by the weather. I want to control the dog. I feel controlled by the dog. I want to control my feelings. I feel controlled by my feelings. To the extent you
Oh, you're
control
so
anything,
right. Damn it.
And I remember I had a session with a friend client many years. It wasn't a real session because he was a friend long time ago, and we did a little bit of
Yeah.
releasing together. But we were releasing around money, and I said, "Could you let go of wanting to control money?" "No, I really want to control money." I said, "Well, I hear that, but to the extent that you want to control money, you wind up feeling controlled by it, and you can't find yourself." "Oh, but I really, really want to control money." I said, "I hear you. It's not working."
Yeah. Yeah. You want to keep on keeping on or you want to feel better?
Right. Would you
Yes,
like
I
something
love
to shift?
that.
Yeah.
And what's really funny, why that is so powerful for me too, is it just hits me right in that little ego spot. And I'm like, oh, well, you can't give it more control by trying to control it. So it makes it easier to let go.
Right, because the other way, so we say it's Sedona method, could you let go of wanting to control this? But you could also say, could I let go of wanting to be controlled by this person?
Ooh, yes, this is amazing.
Right.
Amazing.
Because it's like,
Yeah, I
yeah,
love
I don't
that
want that
because,
controlling me. I don't want that person. And, when I'm
uh-huh.
agitated and I'm mad, it's like the fucking asshole isn't picking up the phone and the insurance company,
Yes.
all of this. It's like, I'm the one who's being controlled. Nobody knows I'm yelling at the phone.
That is so beautiful because it's so true. And man, okay, so I'm a person who used to really try to control everything and everyone around me. I mean, I'm sure it still comes up, but I mean, it was front and center of my life before. And I remember one time someone saying to me, well, it's just because you both are wanting to control the situation, so blah, 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 and I was like, that's not true. I am not trying to control anything," and, oh, man, the way the ego will not look at itself because I didn't see myself as controlling ever, but you know what was funny is how I could identify controlling behaviors in others so easily because
Yeah.
it would trigger me so bad, "You're not gonna control me."
Well, it's interesting because, like, it's we've got obviously, we have control freaks. Everything has to be like this, and you have to do it the way that I but but at the other end, it's like we all want control. We all
We
want
do.
our lives to look the way we want our lives to look. And, with all the work I've done with Sedona Method around control, I used to do groups and I would have everybody list all the things they wanting to control. And it's like, well, I want to control the dog. I want to control the husband. I want to control the weather. I want to control my weight. I want to control how I think. I want to control what I feel, you name it. And then I just started trying to think, what am I not trying to control? And one morning I woke up and I went running to my husband. I came up with something I'm not trying to control. And I was like, I'm not trying to control whether the sun comes up in the morning. And he says to me, wait till the day it doesn't.
Oh god.
Son of a bitch, I can't really, my one thing I identified.
That is so true, though.
When you can start laughing at it as part of the human condition, laughing is also another way that we release. So when you
Yeah.
start looking at yourself and these days I like, oh, look, Melanie's really upset about that. And so that I can actually recognize that I am more than the upset that's arising in the moment.
Oh, yeah.
And that's,
I
where the
love that.
spiritual practice comes in to recognize that, yes, I'm having this body mind experience. And I am so much more than that, or that which I am knows that this is going to end. This is one life out of God knows how many. And
Mhm.
I don't remember all the past lives. I know they happened. I don't remember them. I don't remember that upset. Why am I getting so upset about this? It'll be done soon enough.
Yep. I love that. Man, you have been such a gift today.
Mhm.
Seriously, I'm gonna get both your books.
Awesome.
But tell us before we go, I will include all of your links in my show notes, but I like you to go ahead and say it out loud too, where we can find you if you're active on social media, things like that.
Yeah, so smithsonclinic.com is my website, which has all the information. Um, I'm on Facebook under my name, but you need my middle name, Melanie Beth Smithson. I'm on
Oh,
Instagram, but I'm more on Facebook than Instagram and
okay.
LinkedIn, blah, blah, blah. So all those places.
Okay. Well, again, I'll make sure that I include your links in the show notes, but go ahead and say the names of your books out loud
Yeah.
again.
So we've got the first one. This one actually came out in 2014, unfortunately, more relevant than ever, stress-free in 30 seconds.
I love that. I'm excited for
This
that.
this is the new one, Shake Yourself Free, 81 Somatic Practices to Let Go of Limitation. And
I love
it's what
that.
the feedback I'm getting on this book is actually pretty exciting. People that don't know how to get in touch with sensation or have been asked,
Mhm.
"How does that feel in your body?" They're finding the guide is actually getting them to where they've been trying to get to, so
Oh gosh, that makes me really happy. And I don't wanna keep you, but is that a great book for what we were talking about with the "I don't want to," like,
Oh,
just
yeah.
getting more
Oh,
practice just to
yeah.
get that
Yeah.
intrinsic.
So,
Okay, perfect,
I'll
perfect.
yes. I
Well, I will
started
be using that personally a lot, but I also have a 23-year-old who really struggles with that too, so we will be working on that, and I'm gonna be you're changing my clients' lives because I will be imparting all of this wisdom
you
on
touch
them.
one
I'll
person,
credit
they
you, don't
touch 2
worry, don't
people, and
worry.
so on and so on. So,
Yep, we're changing the world, Melanie.
alright. Good job.
Well, thank you so much for being here. Seriously, I
Mhm.
I can't thank you enough. This was such a good conversation.
It's been a joy.
Okay, I'm gonna press
Cool.
stop if you'll hang out for
Okay.
1 sec.
Sure.
Thanks for coming to Emotionally Unavailable. If you haven't already, like, subscribe, and share.